Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining. Today, our speaker is David Gruenbaum. He's a Union County, Ohio farmer. He'll be presenting on his experiences and practical approaches to cover cropping. David is the owner and operator of Gruenbaum Farms LLC, and he's been a farmer since 1985 when he purchased his first plow. While the farm has applied some cover crops since the 70s, the farm was not 100% cover crop in regenerative ag until 2018. David's professional sphere has also recognized his contributions to agriculture, as he was 2022 Union Soil and Water Conservation District's Cooperator of the Year and Truterra's 2021 runner-up for Farmer Outstanding Sustainability. So with that being said, David, I'll stop talking here and I'll let you take it away and go on with your presentation.
All right. Well, I guess to everybody that's listening today, this is first time I've done a presentation, so bear with me and we'll work our way through. The first slide up here, I have just a couple different pictures of the cover crops that we have. Usually I'll run a legume for the corn and more of a cereal base for the beans, and just wanted to show some different views. This is where we were planting corn, just another view of some of the cover crops that we've had on the farm. And we have had, we've been the multi-species cover crops since 2019. We have 100% no-till since 2016. The farm has always been very into being into the conservation. I mean, as I was growing up as with the mow-board plow, the comment always was, why do we have to keep all these grass waterways? And Dad would tell me, well, we get to keep our soil if we have that, where the neighbors would plow through the low ground and we'd watch the dirt wash away. Another aspect that we've done on the farm is we work with NRCS to plant pollinator strips around the borders. This was one we put on, they call it non-ag land, that we weren't actually using to farm. You put it around the buildings, and it's just another program that they had offered, and we put those in. We'll start out here. This was a field in 2023, and I followed it through, and that's why I have this one on here. As this was, more of a legume base. It had a lot of clover in it. Rolled down really nice with the planter. Planted very well. We went on in 2023 as we hit that spell that we had, several weeks of we didn't get any rain. It got dry. The cover crop was in the midst of dying, and I mean, you can see the corn did emerge, but it was almost a month of just sitting still. It just, that's one of the pieces that I just want everybody to know, that you do sometimes, it's a struggle to watch that first month of the corn or beans working its way through some of the adverse pieces that are out there. In that same field, we had a strip. It was kind of a unique. The year before, we had planted different strips of cereals that we raise our own cover crop seed. And where we had raised rye, we ended up with armyworms just in that strip on that corn. And it was far enough along that we didn't go back in and replant, and it did a number on that strip. And that's some of those learning experiences that we've had, and I'm Not sure what's exactly caused that one little strip, but it did take the corn down. Then at the fall, this is the same spot. Each time I took that picture was when we planted, and then when, a month later, and then the fall, the yield of the corn was just, just as good across the whole farm, for that being, this field being one of the heavier cover crops that we planted into. The picture on the left, it's a little hard to tell because I did it out of the combine, but you can see, you still see all that cover on the soil that was left from the cover being rolled down. This field has since gone to beans this year and looks very good as well. We planted cover crop behind the corn then as well. Every acre we follow up with cover crop, even if it's November. We'll put rye out. We'll change the mix that it's got a heavier rye inclusion, so it'll germinate even in the cooler times. This year, we had two kind of distinct plantings that we got out right at the end of April and got most of the corn in. Then there was a couple weeks of rain, so the second batch was really concerned again. I mean, the cover crop was very heavy. We rolled it. I don't know exactly how to make the video go. Hey, looky there. So you can see the way we run it. I have a roller on the front of the tractor, and then on the planter, I have rollers to pick up the difference there. As across the field, you can see where we've already planted. It went in really nice. I think the next one's the now it's stuck.
Are you trying to go to the next slide, David?
Yes.
It looks like if you go down to that bottom left of your screen, it kind of pops up with slide number 8. There you go. If you click that arrow next to it, it should go to 9.
Clear up here.
Oh,
now I pulled up a whole bunch of stuff.
I said I can't see anything on that end or where your cursor is.
Well,
there you go.
I got it to move. So on our planter, I'm probably not the rule, because I took everything off. Our row unit doesn't have a no-till collar. We try and keep, the row units are rebuilt and the blades are new, but that's all we use to plant into the cover crop, is just the openers, and then I have spiked wheel closing units. We've had very good luck. That's not been the issue of getting the corn to emerge. Let's see if no, it got me. This was not the same field, but it was at the same time when we planted this corn as well. And picture that Nature Conservancy sent a feller out, and they did a few pictures of the different things that we have on the farm. As far as, to give a little more description on the soil is one of the big things that you see change right away on the going with the multi-species cover crops with just a single species. I mean, it's a great way of doing things, a good way of getting started. But the next step is to start adding different species out there, and it's just amazing how the soil changes, the amount of earthworms increase, and you dig a shovelful out, and it's just a big chunk with all these earthworm holes, and it's a big change. But back on, this is the same field that we were in with that we were watching the tractor go, and it's a little bit blurry, you don't see the individual, but we had an excellent stand come up through all that, which I was a little concerned when you see that much cover crop rolling down. And we keep again, we're very simple on our corn planter units. I've got just a set of heavy duty springs on the units, and keeps it in the ground and puts enough pressure on it, and we have worked out really well. And here's a little more about with the dirt. I don't know, can you see all those videos, or is it cut off on yours? Like my, well, the first one is actually a chunk of cover crop that I pulled out when we were planting, and you can see the nodules, the winter peas. There's been times people ask me how much, I count on the nitrogen that I'm fixation with the cover crops. And as of right now, I haven't changed dramatically. My feeling is it's going to give me that little extra at the end if I need it. And then there's nitrogen available for the cereal cover crop again to get a good start in the fall, because we do put down P and K in the fall for the next year's crop, but a little extra nitrogen I feel is a good thing for the cereal. Took this other photo. I thought it was just really unique. We were tiling in a field where I had planted the cover crop before we tiled after wheat, and just to see all the hairs and how the roots, and the far right one was in the same area, and just how much the roots are working through the soil, and that's going to break up. That's my tillage. As the roots are there, and then they die off, and then the next crop is coming in, and they're able to utilize those same channels to grow, and the ground is staying firm but getting loosened from the cover crop. That's just another that's actually a picture of the cover crop from where I got those chunks. I was just behind wheat. There's a lot of times that I utilize whatever I had left over from last fall, or you can kind of see the corn, the seed company I work with. Sometimes they have corn that didn't make cold germ, and I'll actually just put corn in with a cover crop as well, just to add. So there's lots of things out there growing. Kind of a switching gears here, but a little joke we have, a couple of the other guys that we visit and talk about cover crops is, as people work their ground in the fall, we'll see a lot of that running off, and not to say that we all haven't been guilty of a little bit of that, but it's after you start trying to keep all your soil in place, you notice other people a lot more. We have the water shed on our farm. We split. There's a neighbor, and he does tillage, and the water coming off of the cover crops on the left, as you can see, is relatively clean. The grass is holding the dirt in place, and then you you can step out and the water coming from the other field is carrying just that light color from the dirt. So you know that we're losing nutrients and putting it into the water, into the ditches. I've heard it's some of the different things I've listened to, that it's we lose about a paper clip's thickness every year when we till and we get the rain, and that ends up amounting to 6 or 7 tons of dirt per acre. It's a little hard to fathom that sometimes until if you go out with your skid steer and you put the bucket down and you're just skidding a little bit of dirt off, and that bucket's full and 4 or 5 feet, and you realize, well, you just took a ton of dirt in that little bit of space, and take it out and put that in a washout. It takes a lot of those scoops of dirt to fill some of that back in. It is pretty amazing how much we can lose in a year's time. Another piece that we've noticed as we've changed. We had a dairy farm prior to this, so we were always hauling manure. We're taking off a lot of crop and hauling it back on, and we never saw any big changes. And most of the farm is clay. It was all woods when they settled that area, and the soil tests have changed across the board. This is just one piece next to the farm, but we're seeing half a point to a full point change in just a few years that we've started using the multi-species cover crops. So that comes back to, we hope as we keep continuing with this, that we can see that the dry times, we get to stretch the few extra days by having that ability to hold that little extra water from the times when we had the rain. The first few years, I feel that it's a building process, and we've definitely noticed that the home farm, where we did haul the manure and we did pay a little more attention and a little closer to what was going on, accepted the cover crops and accepted the change a lot quicker than some of the ground that we actually purchased a farm in 2020, and it is just now starting to, as I say, accept the way we're farming now. It was a heavily tilled farm prior to that, and they raise good crops, and it just sometimes it takes a little bit of time before the no-till and the cover crops get the soil back to where everything's working properly. Kind of go through a little bit of some of the mixes. I get a little carried away on how much I put on, but I'd rather have a little too much out there and have a good cover than the first few years we were running a little less, and you'd get some thin spots. So I mix the cereal products are things that we grow on the farm, and I mix them up. A little bit of everything. We put the wheat and the triticale, barley and rye in, and mix it up. The winter peas and the hairy vetch are something I really like for the corn. They seem to do all right making it through the winter. And a little more time, like the second planting we had this year, the amount of roots and the nodules that those two have on it is amazing. I know the weather doesn't always work for us the way we want to, and if you see an opening to plant, like we did plant some early in early in May. It was late April, early May. We planted several acres, and the cover crop is there. It just hasn't had quite the time to put all the roots down that it does if you wait another month. But we're also trying to grow crops to make money. So the rape, it'll make it through. I've definitely cut down on that. That first picture way back at the beginning of the slide there, the rape will definitely get big if you have too much of that out there. I put a little radish in the fall, as typically we try and get the corn mix in after early beans, so it has time to get established. And the radish will put a 4 or 5 inch root on before you get a frost to kill it. The purple top turnips, it's just one of those brassicas that will just grows, and it seems to just, it's out there. It's got the leaves. It's got a root. Then we use crimson clover, the Blantia, put those on. Clover's always there. I like the crimson clover because it dies. I will put some red clover in from time to time, but it's a rascal sometimes when you want to try and kill it in the spring. If it's growing, it'll just twist up and keep on growing. And so we go with the other two. They'll die naturally, or if you roll them, they'll definitely die on the. And the last is a little annual rye, just a little bit of grass, just something that's a little bit different. The beans, we focus a lot more on just the cereals, mainly because there's a lot of this gets planted into corn stalks. I do plant a little bit more than a lot of people will stick to that 35, 40 pounds of cereals on the for the cover crop, but I like a little bit more. And if it's getting even later in the season, I'll bump it up from that. And then we run the rape, the brassica in there, and the turnip. And so I say we always put a little bit of clover out there, because if it didn't grow this year, it'll probably grow next year. So also this is it doesn't take anything real technical. We get creative when it comes to putting batches of the cover crop together at the farm. We use our grinder mixer and run the products in, and we weigh it, and have my cereals there, and the bag products, and put that in the side. And after we get a batch done, we put in another gravity bed wagon, waiting to go into the seed tender when it's time to plant. I think it's about the end of it. Yes, it is.
Great. Thank you, David. We do have a question in the chat from Matt. He says, if you can't drill covers in fall because of late soybean planting in the spring, do you aerial seed any cover crop mixes with legumes into a soybean crop before planting corn the following year?
I have, but I've personally haven't had very good luck flying anything on, so I've gone to drilling everything. So I guess the answer is yes, I've done it, but no, I haven't had very good luck with doing it. People do. I mean, that's just my experience. I think there's a lot of guys out there that do fly on and have better luck, but the first year I flew on, it worked wonderful. And in the next 3 years, I've done less and less till last year I did 0.
Great, thank you. Are there any more questions for David? Okay. If not, the recording will be. Oh, Allegra does.
Yeah,
It looks like.
I'm a conservation specialist at Lenawee County Conservation District. And I'm new here and just trying to learn more about cover crops as I work with farmers for getting them on the ground as well. I was wondering, you go with really heavy mixes. Do you ever run into any problems with either moisture or pests come springtime?
In the wheat stubble, if the first year that we did some of the heavy mixes, yes, we had every pest you can imagine. If the cover crop gets too large, we actually roll the wheat stubble in the fall to knock it back, to let it start over again. But as far as the other, no. When we plant soybeans in the cover crop, I typically will plant green, and if it's early in anytime in April and early in May, I will let the beans grow with the cover crop for about a month before I kill the cover crop. Corn, we're non-GMO, so pretty quick after we plant, we run herbicide to make sure the cover crop is terminated. But to answer your question, it's the first year I had a lot of trouble, and the last few years, not so much.
Thank you.